Mom, Dad, where did you go? Allah, please help me.
Don't worry, I'm here now.
This is the story of Farhad, a tiny, innocent child whose life began in happiness and warmth, but slowly got lost in the darkness of painful trials. Until one day, the mercy of Allah embraced him in a way he could have never even imagined. In a small town in Arabia, there lived a couple, Qasim and Ruqayya. They were not just ordinary people. They were kind, soft-hearted, and deeply God-fearing souls. Their lives revolved around faith, offering all 5 daily prayers, observing fasts, giving charity, and always being the first to do good. They never ran after wealth, never chased luxury or status. Instead, they lived with peace, being content with whatever Allah had blessed them with. And in return for their sincerity, Allah had filled their lives with countless unseen blessings. They owned a small business, simple yet filled with barakah. So much so that every need, every expense was fulfilled with ease. Their home was not just a house, it was a place filled with love, peace, and a deep sense of comfort. But the greatest blessing of all was their son, Farhad, a beautiful, innocent, and well-mannered child. There was a sparkle in his eyes and a rare purity in his heart. He was the light of their lives, the center of their world. Every smile of his felt like a gift. But every happiness in this world eventually attracts someone's evil eye. Living in the same house was Qasim's brother, Hashim, and his wife, Shakila. On the surface, they appeared kind, caring, and supportive. But behind that mask, their hearts were filled with jealousy and a silent hatred. They had no children of their own, and this emptiness slowly turned into a burning pain inside them. A pain that transformed into envy. They couldn't bear to see Qasim and Ruqayya happy. They envied their love, their peace, and most of all, Farhad. Day and night, a dark thought lingered in their minds. How can we take all of this away from them? Yet Qasim and Ruqayya, in their innocence and kindness, continued to support them in every possible way. They helped them financially, took care of the household, and stood by them in every situation. But they never realized the darkness hidden within their hearts. Time kept passing, until one day, their long-awaited dream finally came true. They were granted the blessing of Umrah. When they heard the news that Allah had invited them to his sacred house, their hearts overflowed with joy. They offered prayers of gratitude, tears of thankfulness in their eyes, and immediately began preparing for the journey. Qasim even turned to his brother Hashim and warmly invited him. "Come with us. I will cover all your expenses." But Hashim, with hidden intentions, politely refused, and instead chose to take the money. Finally, the day arrived. Qasim and Ruqayya left for Umrah, and before leaving, they placed their most precious treasure, their little son, Farhad, in the care of Hashim and Shakila. With full trust, with hope in their hearts that he would be safe and cared for. But they had no idea that this decision would turn into the biggest mistake of their lives.
On their journey back, suddenly, their plane met with a tragic accident. And in a single moment, Qasim and Ruqayya left this world. Their souls flew away, but they left behind an innocent child, Farhad, who was now an orphan. The moment Qasim and Ruqayya closed their eyes, Hashim and Shakila's faces changed. Deep inside, they were filled with joy. Now, there was no one to stop them, no one to question them. Slowly, They began taking control of Qasim's business, his house, everything. And along with that, they turned Farhad's life into hell. They made that little child work all day. They never fed him properly, and on freezing nights, they would leave him outside, without a bed. His tears, his cries could melt no heart. Every night, Farhad would cry, remembering his parents.
Mom, Dad, where did you go? Allah, please help me.
But there was no one to comfort him. Then one night, the coldest night of winter arrived. The sky was covered with clouds, and icy winds were blowing mercilessly. That day, Shakila had arranged a grand feast for her guests. She made Farhad do all the work. The poor child was burning with fever, but out of fear, he said nothing. At night, when everyone enjoyed delicious food, Farhad was given nothing but dry bread. And when he finally gathered the courage and knocked on the door, a harsh voice came from inside. "Don't knock on the door. Just die out there. You're nothing but a burden to us." Those words felt like the world collapsed on his tiny heart. And then they threw him out of the house. Farhad sat on the freezing ground, shivering uncontrollably. His body burned with fever, while the cold wind cut through him like blades. Crying, he looked up at the sky and whispered, "Ammi, Abu, please take me with you. I'm so tired." His voice slowly began to fade as his breaths started to weaken. Suddenly, the wind stopped, and in the darkness, a strange light began to spread. The entire atmosphere felt frozen in time. Then, a mysterious glow appeared. Slowly, that light transformed into a beautiful figure, a jinn princess, Badr-un-Nisa.
Don't worry. I'm here now.
Her face was filled with noor, her eyes carried deep compassion, and her presence brought peace. She looked at Farhad, shivering in the cold. Without hesitation, she came closer and gently lifted him into her arms. "Don't be afraid. I won't let anything happen to you." Her voice was soft, soothing, almost magical. Farhad looked at her with weak eyes, and then he lost consciousness. That jinn princess, Badr-un-Nisa, was in fact a mercy sent by Allah, a reward for the goodness of Qasim and Ruqayya, a gift for their son. She took Farhad with her into a hidden world, a world where there was no dhulm, no pain. There she healed him, fed him, and cared for him like a mother. Days passed, and slowly Farhad began to recover. The light returned to his face, the fear left his heart, and before long he began to grow under the protection of Badr-un-Nisa. Days turned into time, and Farhad was no longer the same helpless child. The jinn princess had given him a life of royalty. He now wore fine royal silk clothes and had grown into a young man. There was such dignity, such noor in his personality, that it was almost impossible to recognize him. Meanwhile, Hashim and Shakila's life began to fall apart. The business they had taken started collapsing. Fights increased in the house, peace disappeared. The more dhulm they did, the more hardships came upon them. Until one day, their entire business was completely destroyed. Deaths piled up, people started demanding money. The same people who once respected them now humiliated them. And then, one night, Shakila fell seriously ill, and Hashim, who once lived in pride, now began searching for Farhad everywhere. But no matter how hard he tried, he failed to ever find him. One day, the jinn princess, Badr-un-Nisa, came to Farhad.
She made him sit close to her, and in a soft, deeply spiritual voice she said, "Farhad, you do not belong to this world. You have always known this. Today, my duty here has been fulfilled, the task that Allah entrusted to me, because of your parents' good deeds. Now, the time has come for you to return to your real world, because that is where you truly belong. Remember, the one who has no one, Allah Himself becomes their helper, and it was through me that He helped you." Then she continued, "When I brought you here, you were just an 8-year-old, weak child. But today, you have become a strong, dignified, and righteous young man. Just like your parents, Qasim and Ruqayya." After saying this, Badrun Nisa took Farhad with her and brought him back to his real world. She stopped at a deserted place and said, "From here on, your journey is yours alone. My responsibility has now ended. But remember, whenever you need me, just call my name from your heart, and I will appear before you instantly." With these words, Badrun Nisa suddenly disappeared. Farhad stood there for a while. Then he began the journey of his real life. He looked around. As far as his eyes could see, there was nothing but sand, desolation, silence, loneliness. But after living with Badrun Nisa, Farhad now possessed spiritual abilities, powers that an ordinary human could never have. With those abilities, he sensed the condition of his uncle and aunt. A thought crossed his mind that he must go back and see his parents home. When he reached there, his heart shattered. That house, once filled with laughter, love, and happiness, had now turned into ruins. The walls were broken, the doors were worn out, and everywhere there was nothing but emptiness. Seeing this, Farhad was overwhelmed with memories of his parents. His eyes filled with tears. Then he went to find his uncle and aunt. When he finally reached them, he saw they were living in a small, broken hut in a miserable condition. Their state was pitiful. Their clothes were torn, their faces lifeless. It seemed as if they hadn't eaten anything but dry bread for days. Their bodies carried marks of wounds. Life had completely broken them. Farhad called out, "Uncle!" Hearing his voice, they were startled. They looked toward him in shock. In front of them stood a young man, handsome, radiant, dressed in royal clothes. They couldn't recognize him. Then Farhad stepped forward and said, "It's me, Farhad. I came to see you." Hearing this, it felt like the ground slipped beneath their feet. Their eyes widened in disbelief. They rushed toward him. His uncle hugged him tightly, leaving dirt marks on his expensive clothes. But there was not even a trace of pride on Farhad's face. He said seriously, "This condition of yours, I thought you would be living in great luxury in my parents' house, the same house you took away from me and left me to die on a freezing night." Hearing this, they both fell silent. But strangely, even after suffering so much, their nature had not changed. Seeing Farhad like this, greed once again lit up in their eyes. Pretending to be loving, they said, "Farhad, son, where did you go? We searched for you everywhere. After you left, we couldn't sleep peacefully even for a moment." But Farhad was no longer that innocent child. He understood every trick, every lie. Their words had no effect on him. He looked at them silently, then said slowly, "When I was hungry, when I was freezing in the cold, you closed the door on me." Hearing this, Hashim had no answer. He lowered his head in shame. Now he regretted everything. If only we had not treated Farhad like that. But now it was too late. Farhad turned away and left them there,
crying, broken and helpless. After witnessing the hardest days of his life, when Farhad decided to start anew, there was only one desire in his heart: to become like his father, honest, sincere and God-fearing. He stood on that barren land where once his father's home and business thrived. His eyes were moist, but this time these were not tears of weakness, they were tears of determination. He gently touched the soil and whispered, "Father, I will walk on your path. I will bring your name back to life." A new beginning. Farhad started a small business in his father's name. The beginning was simple: a small shop, a few basic goods, but a heart filled with faith. Every morning after Fajr, he opened his shop. He treated every customer with kindness and honesty. He never cheated in measurements, and from every earning, he always gave a portion in the path of Allah. People began to notice his honesty. Slowly, his small shop began to attract more and more customers. The beginning of divine help. One night, as Farhad sat in his shop closing accounts, a soft blue light spread in the air. He understood. Badr an-Nisa. The Jinn princess appeared before him. Her face calm and radiant as always, she spoke gently. "Farhad, you showed patience and chose the path of truth. Allah has written ease for you." After that, it was as if destiny changed. The journey to success. A wealthy merchant, impressed by his honesty, partnered with him. People from distant cities began coming to him for trade. His business grew, not in years, not in months, but in days, multiplying beyond imagination. Where once there was a small shop, now stood a vast trading center. Farhad didn't just succeed in business. He won hearts. He arranged food for the poor, built schools for orphan children, constructed shelters for travelers. People began to say, "This is the same Farhad who once had no one." And today, he has become the greatest merchant in Arabia. Farhad knew this was not just his hard work, but the good deeds of his parents, his patience, the mercy of Allah, and the unseen help of Badr an-Nisa, who stood by him in every difficult moment. One night, Farhad stood on the roof of his palace looking at the sky. A soft light shimmered in the air, and he heard her voice. "I told you, you are never alone." Tears filled Farhad's eyes, but this time they were tears of happiness. He looked toward the sky and said, "Oh Allah, thank you. You turned an orphan into a king." This story teaches us the one who trusts Allah, the one who remains patient despite dhulm, Allah blesses them from places they could never imagine. And truly, the one who has no one, Allah Himself becomes their helper. If you want to see what happens next, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to leave a comment telling us how you liked the story.